Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Mick Alphanim. I hope you're all doing well out there. I hope you had a great day yesterday when we had a day off. I want to read this little tidbit here. This is from news.bitcoin.com, and it is titled, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, former SEC official William Hinman, received millions of dollars from law firms with a vested interest in his speech. Listen, this stuff goes deep. And I think everyone's starting to see the picture that's being painted is much greater than what they're showing here on the surface. Ethereum, Hinman, Ripple. Listen, over the last year or so, what did we see happening with a company attached to Ethereum? Consensus. Let me read this little tidbit here, and we're going to go a little deep, okay? This is Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse has blasted the enforcement approach of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission after the release of the Hinman documents, which contain internal discussions that the institution had before the now famous 2018 speech. It says Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of cryptocurrency-focused company Ripple, recently released a video where he comments on and criticizes the content of the Hinman documents, a set of documents that show internal discussions that we know they iterate things 2 or 3 times. I don't know why. Let's skip that. According to Garlinghouse, the documents, which were finally unsealed after 7 court orders and over $100 million in legal bills, that I don't care about. As long as they win, that's all that matters to me. So show that, quote, at best, senior officials couldn't agree on law and told him indirectly he would confuse the public that we know. Come on now, let's get to the stuff. Okay, now we get to the potent information. That's what I wanted to read. It says, quote, while he was a public servant, Hinman received millions of dollars of payments from his law firm, which was part of an alliance with others that had a vested interest in his speech. Why do you think that they were going so hard to support Ethereum? No disrespect to Ethereum, no shots at Ethereum. I'm just putting out my humble thoughts, humble opinions. That's it. But why? Power. You see, this is not about stopping people from making generational wealth. This is not about hate of crypto. No, they love crypto. Oh yeah, they love crypto. This is why, if you've been reading articles, and I know we skipped the day yesterday, but if you read all those articles that were released yesterday, what did you see? You saw that all the legacy system is moving in on crypto. Didn't you see that? You read it. I know you did. They're moving in. While they chased all these companies out of the United States, they're moving in to offer crypto. Oh, they're offering crypto custody and offering ETFs. They want to offer ETFs. They're moving in. They love crypto. This is about power, ladies and gentlemen. This is another reason why, if you read a lot of articles, and I'll say this, have you seen the suspicious comments going around? Who are these individuals that keep coming in telling people to sell their XRP? Why do like that's suspicious in my humble opinion. You even have articles. You see the articles? Articles telling people to get out of crypto. Interesting, isn't it? Flushing the people out. Breaking them. This is about power. Now let's circle back around. Look up everything that I'm telling you. It's not just me telling you this. You know what you'll know what you're up against. Now, at the time all of this was happening, if you remember in the beginning, when the bank coins were running wild, we had a company that was sort of shoulder to shoulder with us. They were trying to get some of the banks around the world. This is before all the tension and the BRICS nation breaking away from the West. Before then, Consensus was trying to take some of the banks from us. You remember that? Ethereum-based Consensus. This is about power. How do you control the world if not through their money? There's a few ways you control the world. We're talking about power of the highest degree. You control the world through their money, through their food, through their water. You could also throw in their living quarters in space and such, and throw that in there as well. So this is why they're battling so hard, fighting us so hard. They've never been up against a force like us, but this is why they're exposing now, right? There's always two sides to every shield, two sides to a proper sword. Now, in defense, he's saying here, Hinman received millions of dollars. He's not the only one. Remember those 300? That's just the ones they call it, 300 politicians that they said were paid off by Sam Bankman-Fried. What's going on with him? You see any suspicious activity there? So now, solutions. Solutions. We've identified the problem, solutions. One of the main solutions is the people around the world can remain strong and reject that which is negative to them. Fight back, stand up, voice. Let their voices be heard. Don't be shaken. Do not be guided by individuals and entities that do not have your best interest at heart. Having a strong mind and a strong heart is one of the greatest things that the people could ever do and have. One solution, very light solution, but we don't want to go too far on the channel. Now, let's move on to another article here. And if you disagree, I can respect that. But I know you understand. You are some of the strongest people I've ever come across, and I have a wealth of experience. So I don't say that lightly. So now, this article here is from cryptonews.net, and it is titled, "The United States isn't banning crypto. No. It's letting legacy firms take over." Yes, that's what I was just iterating. But let's jump into it. It says here, the winds of change are blowing across the cryptocurrency market, driving a subtle yet transformative shift. Legacy financial institutions are making a foray into the industry. They are capitalizing on the United States Securities and Exchange Commission's regulatory efforts that aim not to ban crypto, but to mold the sector. Now, didn't I say that they were holding everything back so these rickety, crickety, dusty, archaic, antiquated systems, the legacy systems, can step in and get what they feel is their fair share? Now you have articles corroborating what I've been saying for over 2 years now. So this is the world's largest asset manager, bets big on Bitcoin, of course. But we already knew that because BlackRock is in deep with Coinbase and Circle, right? I believe it. Is it just Coinbase outright, or is it Coinbase and Circle? I'm not sure, but they're in deep there. Then you have Vanguard is in deep already with crypto, but on the other side. Not that there's really sides. I'll tell you why in a second. But Vanguard is in deep in crypto because Gary Gensler has most of his assets held by Vanguard. Now, why do I say that there's no sides? I explained this before. I showed the articles, didn't I not? You can look it up for yourself. Vanguard is the biggest holder in BlackRock, and BlackRock is the biggest holder in Vanguard. Is there really a difference at that point? There is not. It's all a game, folks. It's all a game that I plan to win, that I believe that we can win, and issuing a defeat that they have never felt before. And hopefully in that defeat, if everything goes according to plan, we shall have generational wealth. Not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I don't want to be. Just my humble opinion. But you see where all of this is going, don't you? Yeah, so they're stepping in. We're not surprised by that. Crypto is here to stay. Soros Fund Management CEO. Oh, is that right? They've been making a lot of waves lately. Soros Fund individuals and entities, haven't they? Yes, they have. Dawn Fitzpatrick. We're getting very familiar with this individual. CEO of Soros Fund Management echoes this trajectory. You know that they put money everywhere to shape everything. Everything. Right? We'll leave it at that. So this echoes this trajectory in the wake of the SEC's recent lawsuits against trading platforms Binance and Coinbase. Fitzpatrick perceives a golden opportunity for established financial firms to assume the helm. They're coming. But I'll say this also. When they do take over, then, or no, I won't even say take over. Let me play it right down the middle. When they get their fair share, they will allow capital to flood into crypto. Therefore, they will capitalize on the biggest pullback of all time, which we've been experiencing. When all that capital flows in and prices skyrocket. Do you believe that BlackRock and Soros Fund is getting involved with crypto to not make money? Because there's not going to be trillions flowing through crypto? Absolutely not. But they spend all their money to convince the people that crypto is going nowhere. And the people selling, those prices plummet, which unleashes the regulatory hounds so that they can run wild, taking over everything. Patience wins the day. Only later, they'll tell you crypto is great. Same trick they pulled with Bitcoin. Remember that? Oh, Bitcoin is trash. Oh, Bitcoin is not good. Those same individuals, this is on record, came out later after Bitcoin skyrocketed and said, yeah, I bought tons of Bitcoin. Wow. Same trick is being pulled now. Oh, crypto is bad. You don't want it. Illicit activities, no regulatory compliance. Everybody runs away. I know so many who have. Only later for them to, these companies here, legacy companies, to take over. Money floods in and they make all the money. And then later, maybe some of the regular people come back only to pick up just tiny little bits of capital, tiny little bit. You get to play a little bit. This is typically how it goes. I can only tell you what I know, what I've experienced. So, it says here, Binance and Coinbase, Fitzpatrick perceives a golden opportunity for established financial firms to assume the helm. Says crypto is here to stay. This is what Fitzpatrick is saying. Quote, crypto is here to stay. What has happened is clearly a setback. But right now, I actually think it is a huge opportunity for the incumbent financial firms to actually take the lead. It's what they always wanted. They played everyone like a fiddle. Not everyone, not us. I mean, the regular people played them like a fiddle, and they will continue because when they will continue. Right now, what they're doing, they're looking for a way to force the people into the new financial system. That's what they're looking for. That's why they're allowing, not even just allowing the banks to fall and get into this trouble. They're actually manufacturing the trouble. When the Fed never had to take that path in the first place that they took, there were plenty of other solutions. We went over plenty of them on the channel. We'll see if it works. They got pushback so far on their CBDC. We'll still try anyway. Look, even if they don't have a retail CBDC, that's where the pushback is, not on wholesale. The wholesale will bring us to capital anyway. Through Quant, through XRP, all the wholesale movers, Algorand. But the retail CBDC is where they're getting pushback. That's another reason why I think they're considering, if you pay attention to what's been going on in the news, it's been apparent that they may be considering other options to force the people. But that would mean there would have to be substantial and immediate damage to the financial system. You get where I'm going? All right, got to be a little careful here. All right, and I think that the collapsing of the banks, because of a variety of reasons, commercial real estate, unrealized losses, erosion of bonds, all that stuff. That may be taking a little too long, and they may be getting impatient, waiting for those other banks to collapse. It's just something that I'm considering a possibility. That's it. I like to be realistic. That way we can prepare. It's not about being afraid or fearful of anything. No, not whatsoever. But seeing that there's a lion in the forest, and then preparing ourselves so we can protect ourselves and be safe, protect our value, protect ourselves at all times and at all cost. That's how I look at it. All right. So now let's move on to another article here. So this article is from theblock.co, and it is titled, Former SEC Advisor, Legal Doctrine Could End Gensler's Crypto Crackdown. Is that so? Let's scroll down here and see what they're talking about. It says, former advisor to the U.S. SEC is shedding light on a legal doctrine that challenges the authority of regulatory agencies and could potentially put an end to SEC Chairman Gary Gensler's crypto crackdown. Really? J.W. Verrett, associate professor of law at George Mason and former advisory committee member to Gensler and other SEC commissioners, broke down the importance of the major questions doctrine in the last episode of the Scoop podcast. The conversation centered around the recent lawsuits brought by the SEC against Binance and Coinbase over alleged securities violations. The major questions doctrine relates to, quote, how courts look at what executive agencies do in the so-called independent agencies and consider how much deference to give the things that they do, unquote, Verrett said. These agencies, such as the SEC, receive broad mandates from Congress to regulate certain areas. However, the specifics are often left vague, which has resulted in a significant expansion of regulations through agency rulemaking over the years, he added. So implications for crypto regulation. The major questions doctrine could have significant implications for the SEC's regulatory actions in the crypto space. While agencies like the SEC derive their authority from broad mandates, the major question doctrine demands clear congressional authorization for major regulatory decisions. It could challenge the SEC's reach and authority in regulating digital assets that operate on decentralized blockchains, Verrett said, drawing on examples where regulatory actions went, quote, a step beyond what Congress intended, unquote. Verrett highlighted the Howey test as a good analogy. Well, we know what the Howey test is. Let's skip that part. It says, similarly, the major questions doctrine challenges the SEC's jurisdiction on cryptocurrencies existing solely on decentralized blockchains, Verrett said, quote. I think it's an argument that Coinbase and Binance are going to run with, unquote. The major questions doctrine is not likely to be discussed until the SEC's lawsuits against Coinbase and Binance US reach the appellate courts, which could be a long way away, Verrett said. Quote, but it's one of the things that looms over these cases without a doubt. Verrett ended the interview by saying he would continue to trade on Coinbase despite the SEC's actions against it. This is getting very interesting. I think it's not long before there's regulatory clarity. And by not long, I think overall, maybe within the next year and a half, there's so much going on. You have, isn't there a lot of activity in Congress right now? They're trying to have certain things passed, or is that Senate? Well, you have political activity going on that is favorable towards crypto. You have things like this that is favorable towards crypto. The Ripple versus SEC case should be coming to an end very soon. Things are starting to sort of turn around, and I don't think that's a mistake. Things are turning around at the same time that the legacy system is trying to take over. They've made it as far as they've ever made it with the power grab in crypto, and I think that that's on purpose. So since now they have what they want, I think they're preparing to unleash crypto at some point. Like I said, maybe the next year and a half, it depends, and that's overall. Once again, when it comes to the bank coins, that's different. When the SEC case is over against Ripple, I still firmly believe the bank coins will be able to run free because the use cases are so similar. I just don't see the point in battling them after a victory by Ripple, right? Okay. So now let's move on to another article here. So this article is from U.Today and it's titled, Pro Ripple Lawyer Cites 3 Reasons Why Clarity on XRP Secondary Sales is Imminent. All right. So let's read this little tidbit here. It says, crypto law founder and XRP holders attorney John Deaton believes the ruling judge in the Ripple SEC case will likely address the issue of secondary market sales. This comes amid ongoing discussion that Judge Torres might not address the issue of secondary sales since it is not explicitly implied in the lawsuit. Then he says this, I disagree. With that said, no one knows until she writes her opinion. And as a general rule, a judge usually only addresses what she/he needs to address. Now, on one hand, she doesn't need, quote, need to address secondary market sales to decide whether Ripple offered/sold XRP as a security, right? Which makes sense to me. It says, thus, no one knows exactly whether the issue of secondary sales might be addressed or not until the judge makes a ruling. I also will throw in there that there is the possibility that she could address it because of certain precedents that have already been set, like the LBRY hearing, right? Where it was found that the tokens in secondary market are not securities. Why not? That makes things very easy, right? It says, in the case of Ripple, the ruling judge does not need to address secondary market sales. Okay, we read that already. So, listen, I'm not worried about anything at all. I feel very, very good, very confident. Everything's looking good in my humble opinion. And sure, while it's fun to continue to just tear apart all of this information, I think that very soon we will be able to move forward. We'll see what the judge says. And right now, with actions that the judge has taken, it looks like the judge has been leaning in our favor all along. Let's hope that that continues. So now let's move on here to another article. So this article here is from U.Today and it's titled XRP Fund Inflows Eye Explosive $1 million Surge as Ripple versus SEC Verdict Nears. All right. Anything that's positive happening on the XRPL, I'm happy about. As simple as that. I mean, I know there's always something good going on anyway. It says, in the latest report released by CoinShares, XRP has once again emerged as the clear frontrunner in cryptocurrency-focused investment products, experiencing a significant surge in inflows with a value of $1.1 million for the week. XRP has achieved one of its most impressive results of this year. All right. Consequently, XRP-focused investment products have amassed positive year-to-date inflows amounting to $6 million. The significance of this data is further underscored by the overall state of the market, which has witnessed outflows amounting to a staggering $226 million. Wow. All right. These investor behaviors from the more traditional financial sector are largely attributed to the growing anticipation surrounding the imminent ruling in the SEC case against Ripple. Can you imagine when we actually get that victory, what's going to happen? And people say there's not going to be an explosion? I beg to differ. Respectfully, I beg to differ. So similar trends were observed previously in late April and early March, underscoring the significance of investor sentiment. This sentiment is further reflected in the rising price of XRP, which has experienced an upward trajectory over the past week. Notably, it is not only investors who are expecting a swift, pun intended here, writer, a swift resolution to the case. Experts like Mark Fagel, a former lawyer and SEC veteran, I told you that was significant, also predict a verdict within days. Woo. Listen, like I said, I think it's more reasonable to say days, weeks, could be days, weeks, months. They're saying days outright. I'll take it. If it happens, I'll take it. I like to get this over with as quickly as possible, but we had so many predictions where they're saying, well, it's days and it doesn't happen. I wouldn't want people, I'm not a person who gets excited and then I get disappointed. I'm not really that person, but I know a lot of other people might be that way. They get excited, and if something doesn't happen, they get disappointed. I wouldn't want that for the people. So that's why I'm just trying to stay as balanced as possible. I feel excited. I'll take whatever it is. I'm happy with that. It's not going to take that long is what everyone that's the one average from everyone that I'm getting. It's that it's not long before this is over. And I'll take that. That's good. So it says, while XRP shines in terms of fund inflows, digital asset investment products encountered minor outflows totaling $5.1 million. All right, we'll stop right there. They go into a little bit of this BlackRock news and such. We'll stop right there. Once again, that's on u.today. They're doing a great job. Make sure to check them out. Give them some traffic. So then we get to this article here. This article is from bncrypto.com. And it's titled, IMF Warns of CBDC Settlement Issues. Oh, as digital euro sparks outrage. Well, the CBDC talk. Listen, they didn't even start trying to release the CBDC in the United States. They just released this FedNow, which is, look, FedNow once again. All it is you can look this up for yourself. All it is Venmo, Cash App on steroids. That's all it is. Now, we did cover a few articles where there will be integrations with FedNow, where there are blockchain companies that will be integrating with FedNow, but it's not a CBDC. They are trying to put together that system. That's why you have Ripple on the Faster Payments Task Force and Faster Payments Council, and you have Algorand and working with MIT, working with the federal government to put together a CBDC. But so anyway, the point is, there's been outrage against that. The people have been standing up and saying, no, we don't want a CBDC because privacy issues and control. And, there's a lot of people have a lot of problems with it. So this doesn't surprise me at all. Well, let's read this little tidbit and find out what's going on. So the European Union leading Western governments' CBDC progress, according to Kristalina Georgieva, 10 out of 14 countries have already expressed practical interest in CBDCs. She added that coordinated regulation must avoid settlement blocks that will fragment the global economy. That is silly. It's not going to happen. The global economy is already fragmented. Because of all the tension between countries, and a lot of them are major. I know a lot of people like to downplay other countries. I get it. The whole pride thing and all that stuff like that. I don't play into that. I try to see things for what they are, and they all play a very important part, not only in the world, but in people's lives, right? Some move a lot of product. Some have a lot of commodities. Some have the power of their currency. Some have a powerful military. They all play these key parts. But because of that, the fighting between them, the bickering, they don't want to work with each other anymore. Hence why a lot of them are calling for a decentralized world system, which is not what the West wants, the IMF, the BIS. They don't want that. They want a centralized system where they have the power, where the dollar remains in power, right? Where they can sanction you through their systems. That's what they want. They want to continue that. And so there's a bit of a battle going on. So there's not going to be a global system without fragmentation. It's going to be a fragmented system. And all systems are going to be different. This is why it's almost, it's gone from being a commanding roar that the IMF has been speaking with over the last 2 years to now, this year, the last half a year, has been more of a whimper, a cry, a begging of sorts to, hey, can we have a global system, please? And, the BRICS nations isn't having none of it. And even other countries that are not part of the BRICS nations saying, whoa, wait a minute. If we go along with your system, then you may be able to do to us what you did to others, right? Which is very injurious. So that's not, as of right now, logically speaking, because anything can happen. But logically speaking, I just don't see that happening. So the European Union is leading Western governments' efforts to introduce a CBDC. Its executive arm will soon release new rules limiting the use of a potential digital euro. The EU wants the European Central Bank to limit the digital euro's role as a store of value to ensure financial stability. Really? That does not. So are you going to have expiration date on it? Or, what do you mean by limitation? You have to clarify that. And saying it's another thing I've been hearing a lot of people talk about. They don't like the fact that maybe you have the power to put expiration dates on certain things that you want spent in order to maintain financial stability, right? We don't have to go too deep with that. They're not sure. The people are not sure what you're capable of, right? And they don't really trust you. I don't blame them. It says demonstrators. And if you feel differently, I can respect that. Demonstrators protested against digital euro efforts in Amsterdam in mid-May. I'm glad they said that. There's been a lot of protests for a lot of different reasons, and it just doesn't get a lot of media coverage, right? This is one reason they've had to pull back a little bit on what they were trying to do. This is one reason why in the beginning, they were talking about utilizing smart contracts massively. And then they started to pull back a little bit in a lot of their transcripts and speeches saying, hey, you know what, maybe we don't need smart contracts. It doesn't need to be programmable, which is in complete contradiction to what they were saying before. You saw that, didn't you? All right. It says fears of government surveillance. Ooh, okay. See, who wrote this article? They're doing pretty good. All right. It says, and conspiracy to end cash dominated proceedings as governments struggle to build a strong argument around the need for a digital currency. Well, people are basing that on certain countries are already doing that. They're getting rid of their cash. They're getting rid of their paper tender right now. That's a fact. I've read the articles myself. There's people on the ground that have been reaching out and letting a lot of media people know that that's occurring. So that the people are afraid that's going to be widespread, and I don't blame them. That's my go-to catchphrase this video. I don't blame them. So the European Central Bank is expected to announce an implementation phase and a pilot phase later this year. The ECB's Christine Lagarde expects the bank to make a final ruling on the digital euro in 2020. So they're pushing this back to 2026 now. They just keep pushing the timelines back. 2026 to 2027, folks. So now we got to add more years to our calendars. Not that it makes too much of a difference in my humble opinion, because you're going to have businesses using digital currency. So this money's still going to be in flow. The banks can still issue their own stable coins and their own digital currencies, or use something like XRP or Quant as such. And I believe that they are. So they still can use that. They don't have to have this overarching CBDC, so to speak. So more so what it would be is an entire network of like MBDCs. They're all mixed together. They're all layered together, serving different purposes. XLM, XRP. It's just as an example. Algorand smart contracts, Hedera smart contracts, very advanced smart contracts. You have a system like that between all of the banks and all of the businesses, big and small, until you get this overarching, CBDC, which CBDC is nothing but a body. It's like the body of a car. Whereas XRP, XLM, Algorand, Hedera, XDC, they're like the mechanisms within the engine of the car. The body doesn't function without that. So that's really what I think is going to occur, but we will see. But them pushing the timeline back when MiCA legislation is going to roll out, allegedly, this is what they say, roll out next year. So they're adding on another 2-3 years. We're back to that same two. They love those numbers, don't they? 2 to 3 years. My goodness. You guys let me know what you think. This is why I always say, like, we don't control the timelines. They continue to push things back because their plans don't go how they want them to go, because they're way too aggressive. They want too much from the people. They're trying to force it on the people instead of showing the people the positives of these things. And then on top of that, yeah, sure, their trust is in the garbage can. So the people don't want to accept something new. So the people of the world right now are sort of the mind state. If it's not broke, don't fix it. You ever heard that before? It's an old school saying. All right, so then they go into a little bit of the UK central bank test. UK central bank tests retail and wholesale CBDC settlements, which of course, if you were in the members only section, you would have saw that article that I posted about Quant having a deal with the Bank of England and the Bank of International Settlements. They're running tests right now. Holy smokes. If they utilize Quant fully, my word, get ready, folks, just in case. All right. But this is major. So when I see Bank of England, I immediately think two companies, Quant and XRP. So the Bank of England jointly studied CBDC's practical application and benefits in a recent trial dubbed Project Rosalind. Decline of cash payments in UK. It found that a CBDC system could settle transactions between individuals and businesses quicker and help firms to develop new financial products. companies can pay vendors through a locked multi-party payment system, which releases funds when vendors deliver goods or services. The central bank also recently proved its real-time gross settlement concept that synchronized asset transfers between two ledgers. The system will likely come into force next year, allowing quicker interbank settlement times. The technology will likely allow a wholesale CBDC settlement system. Wholesale, big money, folks, interbank payments. Quant, please do a good job. You know what's suspicious? I always find that suspicious. A big announcement like that happens, and I don't see any other articles written about it. It was that one article, and then it was on quant.network. Then they don't talk about it anymore. So for days, and this is why I'm saying this, for days, they've been talking about the Bank of England and CBDCs. I've been reading articles about that. They never talk about quant. Why? That's major, isn't it? Isn't it? Who's paying, allegedly, might be paying people behind the scenes to keep quiet on quant? I bet you those banks know. I bet you those banks going to load up on quant. Anyway, so this article here is from finbold.com, and it is titled Ripple versus SEC Case Update as of June the 19th. It says, with the cryptocurrency community still analyzing the details of the controversial Hinman speech and the later deposition of former division director William Hinman, let's skip that part. Oh, no, let's not skip. But they're finally talking about consensus. I was talking about earlier in the video. The SEC's team had failed to redact the spelling of consensus. I told you this is about power. Meaning that the names of the company directly related to Ethereum and Consensus founder Joseph Lubin appear in the deposition quite often, according to Deaton's Twitter thread. I told you it was about power. They wanted control. At that time, they had an opportunity to grab control around the world because Consensus was in India. Consensus was in the Caribbean. I mean, they were trying to work with a lot of big banks. And I remember Consensus was trying to get a foothold in the United Arab Emirates, I believe, but that didn't work because Ripple got deep there. But first of all, a couple of their projects didn't go so well from what I remember. You can look that up for yourself, okay? So that way it's not just me telling you. But a couple of their projects didn't go so well. Remember that? Yeah. And even one was strange where they had a problem with a consensus system at one of the banks. And they were saying that it was a security issue, like a security certificate issue, something like that. What? So the bank had to shut down the system? No. So that kind of threw a monkey wrench into their plans. But at that time, though, they did have the opportunity to grab power. So anybody who was in deep on Ethereum or Consensus, right? They sort of could have been the puppet masters, the puller of the strings if things had gone according to plan. Just my humble opinion as to why these things happened and why it was Ethereum that they chose to do all this with and back. Now that you have that information, what are you going to do with it? I know what I'm going to do with it. So until next time, let's get to the money.